Hello and a very good day everyone. So now we will learn how we can construct a dashboard. As you can see in this particular file, we have a file named financial statement football. In this particular file, we have list of football clubs from Arsenal up to Manchester United. And each football clubs, they have revenue and the expenses. So in this particular file, we can calculate the profit or the losses made by each respective clubs. So from this particular data, how we can create an exciting and visualizing dashboard. Okay, let's get started. So the first thing what I do is I create a new file. Okay, this particular file is a file where we will transform our data into an exciting dashboard. So we go to data over here. There's a ribbon called data ribbon. We just click data, and the next thing we go to get and transform section. In this particular section, what we can do is you go and click new query. And before we click new query, you must understand about the original data, the source of the file. So this file name is financial statement football, and we save this file in the desktop. So when I click the desktop, you will notice there's a file on financial statement football. So you need to know the file name and also the location of the file. All right. So now when we go to the next file, we go to data, we go to new query, we click from file, from workbook, and then a window will pop out. So like what I mentioned earlier, we save our file in the desktop and the file name is financial statement football, and I click import. So once I click import, it will load for a while and you will notice a big window will appear. A navigator window will appear, as you can see. So what I do is I click this sheet 1 and I transform data. So once I transform data, you will notice that we will be navigated to Power Query Editor. So in this Power Query Editor, we can extract data from the internet, from the PDF, and from other Excel files as well. We can also transform and massage the data. For example, over here, I just right click on column 1, I go to Fill, I go to fill down. So once I press fill down, you will notice it will fill down automatically. But some data is not accurate because we have none, we have profit and loss. So what I want to do is maybe I'll just want to remove this profit and loss. I go to remove arrow and remove bottom arrow. And then I'll just remove two arrows. Okay, so it's removed. I also don't want the null, so I'll just untick the null. So now we do have a data. At the same time, I also want to remove the total revenue and also the total expenses. So since this is a particular row, so I just go to remove row and I'll remove alternate rows. Okay, so once I click remove alternate row, you will notice a window will appear. This box will appear. So the first row is to remove is row number 7, which is total revenue. So I just click number 7. Numbers of row to remove is 1 and numbers of row to keep is 6. So in this case, you will notice the total revenue and the total expenses will be removed. So when I press OK, the total revenue and the total expenses has been removed. The next step is I want to remove the total column because we are going to put this in a pivot table. So I just want to click this, right click, remove, right? Next, I click this particular column, Manchester United. I press the shift button and press Arsenal as well. So all this particular column, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to transform and unpivot column. And then you notice we do have the section revenue and the details and the football clubs and the values. So I'm going to rename these columns. Maybe I'll just put the as GL details. You can actually double click and rename the column name, football clubs, and Ringgit Malaysia. So we have the each respective columns. So now what we can do is we can go to home and we can close and load. So once it load, you will notice it will load accordingly. Okay, so now we have this data. So I'm going to name this data as raw data from a source, from source. And next, from this particular data, I want to create a pivot table. So I go to insert, I just click this, put my cursor over here, insert pivot table. And once I click pivot table, a pivot table window will appear. So I'll just go to the existing sheet and I'm going to go to this sheet 1. I just press here and okay. So in this pivot table, we have the summaries, which is the details, GL details, football clubs, and RM. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the football clubs on the filters, GL on the rows, and I want to put the RM over here. And then of course I need to clean the data. This data is difficult to interpret, so I just right click, format cells, and then a window will appear. So I'll just go to accounting, remove symbol, and no decimal places. So now it looks this. And then of course you notice we want our revenue to appear first and then expenses. Okay, later we'll amend this. Next, I'll just try to create another pivot table. In this one, I just want to put the GL over here and I want to click just say the revenue. So we have the revenue and GL details we put at a row. So now we have this. Right click, sort largest to the smallest, and then I'll just put maybe value filters top 3. Right, so I'll just copy this and I'll paste it downwards. So now I'll do the same for expenses. So this is the expenses, revenue, and the initial details. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to copy this, paste it over here, and I'll paste it here. So equal VLOOKUP. If you're using Excel 365, you can use XLOOKUP, but I'm going to use VLOOKUP since I'm using Excel 2016. So VLOOKUP, this is the lookup value, and I'm going to highlight this, the table array, column number 2, and 0 for exact match. So I have this, and I'm going to upkeep accounting format. So we have the revenue and expenses. So when revenue minus expenses, we should have profit or loss. So I'm going to put here equal if. So if this is more than 0, it should be profit. Otherwise, it should be loss. Okay. So if just say I'm going to put I go to pivot table analyze, I go to insert slicer, click the football clubs, and okay. So if just say I click Chelsea, you notice it is losses. But what if just say instead of negative 98, I want to put a bracket. So I press Ctrl 1, a box will appear. This box is format cells. And I can just format this. I'll just put the open bracket and a close bracket. So now it looks cool. So when I click Arsenal, it's a profit. Liverpool, loss. Manchester City, profit. Okay, so this is how we can create this. And I also want to create some graph. So pivot table analyze and pivot chart. So I'm going to create a line chart. We have this line chart. Right click and I'm going to remove or hide all fields. Remove the grid line. Remove legends. Data label. And I want to click this remove. I want to name this as top 3 revenue. And the same thing, I want to click this pivot table analyze, pivot chart, column. I just remove hide all, and I want to remove legend, grid line, add data label. And I just click this. I want to put this as top top three expenses. Okay, all right. So but however you notice that when we click Arsenal the graph doesn't change, and we click any club it doesn't change. So what you can do is you right click, report connections, and we take pivot table 5, pivot table 6. So we click this. So now when I click Arsenal it changes, Chelsea it changes. So I'm going to rename this as pivot table, and I want to create a dashboard over here. So when you want to create a dashboard, bear in mind you need to have a title so that your manager, your stakeholders or client, they can understand what is the dashboard is. So I'm going to create a title, and I want to put as financial performance of football clubs. Let me put middle, make it bigger, and this. There you go. All right, so the next step is what I'm going to go do is I just want to click this X, Control X. I'll just paste it over here. Okay, and I go to the slicer option, and I'll just increase the column to 5 columns. So we have 5 columns over here. Let me upkeep. So 5 columns all over here, and make it dark blue. Okay, so now we have this. Make it maybe just adjust accordingly. Okay, so now we have the respective clubs. So now I'm going to go this Control X. So I just put it over here. So we have the revenue, and I want to put this as maybe dark blue, or maybe dark dark green, maybe dark green. So you have this, and black color font. Okay, so the same thing I'll try to do for the expenses as well. Go here, right click, Control X, and I'll just paste it. Okay, so this one similarly I'm just going to press this. I'll put this as red color column, red column, red, top tray, bold, black color font, and black color font. Okay, so now if just say I click Liverpool, you can understand and analyze accordingly. So if just say I untick this, you can understand accordingly. But what I'm going to do is I want to create the performance over here. Okay, so if you remember I've already created this, so just maybe I'll just put this as light blue, bold, and maybe I'll just put this as gold. Okay, so the same thing, and I'll put the border, and I'll put RM over here. So dark blue and white font. Okay, and then what I do is I'm going to create a camera. So I'll just go to File, go to More, go to Options, and an options window will appear. So you go to Quick Access Toolbar, you go to All Commands, and then you can actually choose camera. Okay, CAMERA, camera. So the camera is over here, and then you just have to add. Okay, so you go to camera, click this and edit. So of course automatically your camera feature will appear on the quick access toolbar. So I press OK, so the camera is over here. So I'm just want to highlight this, I press camera. Okay, and what I do is I just going to draw a video here. So you have this data, let me make it bigger. Okay, so this is that particular data, and maybe just need to upkeep over here. All right, so I'll just go to view, remove the grid lines, and I'll go to view, remove the grid lines over here. Okay, so this is your dashboard. So when you click Arsenal, So you know that this is the performance of Arsenal. If you click Liverpool, this is the performance of Liverpool. But what if just say you want to upkeep again? Maybe you want to make a dynamic title. So what I'm going to do is I just want to press, okay, maybe I'll just remove the slicer. Okay, so the slicer shows all. So I'm going to copy this, paste as a value. Okay, and I'm going to put at, maybe I'll just copy this title. Okay, so I'm just putting this and there you go. Okay, so if all is equals to all, then it should be football club. Okay, otherwise it just follow the data accordingly. So, and then I'm going to put here equal prostoffy and I'm going to grab this, remove this, and link this formula. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I just want to put here equal and over here. All right, and then I rename this as your dashboard. So now when I click Arsenal, it shows the financial performance of Arsenal, the top three revenue, the top three expenses, and your data. So when I click Manchester United, you have the financial performance of Manchester United. So basically, this is how you can create an exciting dashboard for your stakeholders and your manager.